And welcome back to the Kenny and JT Show, hour number 2. And Kenny, I can't be happier today because it's a proud moment in the city, in the history of the city of Canton, Ohio. We call it humbly the Hall of Fame city. And joining us right now on the program, a good friend of mine. And I say good because we go back almost the entire time he was a member of the Canton Fire Department, but he never had this. What's that say on that shirt now?
I think it says chief. There you go.
The new chief of the Canton Fire Department, Akbar Bennett, joining us on the program today. Brother, I am so proud of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm humble.
I hear JT knows everybody, and when he told me he knew you a while back, I'm like, oh, that's good. But now he knows the chief, man, of the fire department in Canton. What does this mean to you, Akbar, that not only are you the chief, but you're the first African-American to be named such?
And every time, thank you, Kenny. And every time that's brought up, I always tell people I never wanted to be the first African-American chief. My goal was not to be the last. To do a great job and to protect my men and women, protect the citizens of Canton, and make sure that when it's all said and done, years from now, the color of my skin will not even be relevant anymore. And then in the future, the next young African-American or even female can come up and they don't feel like that there's any kind of ceiling, that they can be whatever they want to be.
Akbar, your path, you've been with the fire department for, 28 years now?
Yes, sir, 28 years.
Wow.
Okay, so captain, battalion chief, division chief, and now chief. What are the differences and how does this go about being named new chief?
Well, throughout the years, we have promotional exams where you compete against other firefighters, and it becomes more and more competitive, and it becomes more and more difficult because the higher you rank you go, the more intelligent and the more skilled people you have to compete against. But I always just put in that work, man, and I just always believed that I could get it done. And I always thought it'd be special too. Somebody who's lived in Canton their whole life can actually represent. And being a McKinley Bulldog is kind of right up the street. We can, go in whenever we want to, brother.
I haven't even mentioned this, but on the first day, you're sitting in a big office by yourself. What happens on the first day for the new fire chief?
Well, on the first day, I'm getting the division chief because my guy, he just got promoted also. So I'm kind of getting him acclimated into the role because like for the last 9 months, I've been doing both jobs. I've been the acting chief and the division chief because the other chief had been off. So I've been doing both roles. So we're ready to go. I'm well versed.
You know what this is, JT? This is like the interim job for a coach on an NFL team, right? He takes over in mid-season, gains the experience, which is an advantage, I'm guessing, for you, Akbar, and then you get named. So what was that like, knowing that you had 2 roles you had to fill, but one of those roles might lead you to the ultimate goal, which was this?
And that's a great question, Kenny, because you're also having to lead people who you're going to be competing against for the next chief. So you're actually having to tell a guy who might be your future boss what to do in that particular moment. So it was challenging, but at the same time, I always say if you stay right, you ain't got to get right. So I just stayed consistent and I stuck on my principles. Hey, this is what Canton Fire represents, and let's go. Let's get it done.
Such a great day for the city, and especially for us, like I said, going back so long. I know for a fact that at one point in time you were interested in a career in music, but at some given point in time you had to choose between being a fireman or being on the fire department and music. How did that go about? A lot of times when we hear somebody is a fireman and maybe their father or an uncle, do you have lineage back to the fire department or no?
My oldest brother, he became a firefighter in 1982. And then I have another brother who got on the fire department in 91. And then I came on in 93. And so, but they're not on the department anymore. But so I'm like the last of the Mohicans. And so for me, I just fell in love with the job. I fell in love with the ability to help people, my community. But like you said, JT, I do love music, still love music. You might catch me sing karaoke, every once in a while with, a few of my friends. But once I started to educate myself way back when, I realized that the music business was a business, and there's 95% of the people really weren't getting financially stable. I realized that it was not a career, it was a hobby.
All right, is he better than Eddie Ghosh, JT? Who's better in karaoke, Akbar or is it Eddie Ghosh?
Nobody's better than Eddie Go.
Okay, all right.
Akbar, but nobody takes the cake like Eddie.
I just wanted to find out here. You know, I thought you might suck up to him and say he was on his special day, but you're keeping it real, which is great. I hear you. Akbar Bennett, the new fire chief for Canton, joining us here on the Kenny and JT show. And Akbar, as a fireman, you put your life on the line every day. And so we tip our cap to you and all of the firemen and women who do this for a living. How do you do that? I mean, we're two idiots on the radio. This is what we do for a living. Our lives are not in danger being on the radio. Yours and your team, their lives are in danger every day when that bell rings. How do you, I guess, prepare yourself for that, knowing how dangerous it can be?
Well, from the beginning, I always ask myself, if not me, then who? And so for me, it was like, I wanted somebody to be able to, protect my mom or protect my sister or protect my loved ones. And so I felt like I had a calling to do that. But I just also want to say that, the current police chief is a good friend of mine, too. So I just want to give a shout out to the police officers out there, too, because they're in the life-saving business also. And so
Right.
we work hand in hand, and we have a great relationship, and it's all about keeping the citizens safe. So it's about self-sacrifice and, going. And I always tell people at the end of the day, we're going to go and we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done.
That's interesting because, you're all over television today. Obviously, they're doing interviews from Cleveland to obviously here. And you mentioned the first order of business, talking to the division chiefs. But what is the goal of the new fire chief of the city of Canton?
My goal is to make sure that I continue to, number one, the bread and butter is to protect the citizens of Canton. That's where it starts with, keeping everybody safe. The second goal is to connect the fire department to the community and getting out in the inner city, going to the lower income neighborhoods. Because when I was growing up, I didn't see fire trucks. So I'm going to take the fire trucks to the inner city, connect them to the fire department, and let them know this is your fire department. And so the next kid, because I grew up in the projects of Canton, Ohio, and I want to make sure that the next kid can dream and say, you know what, one day I could be the next fire chief. So those are the goals. And also don't forget, we got Hall of Fame coming up. That is a huge challenge. And so for us, we deal with, of course, the fire and EMS side of it. So we're starting that planning right now and getting ready for that, because I think that it's going to be a big year. And JT, you know how much I love sports, and we talk about it all the time. So, and it's funny because I tell my guys, okay, now let's get this cheat thing out of the way. And let's talk about JT. Let's talk about what we really want to talk about. This NFL draft Thursday, baby.
I told Kenny, I said one of the main things we're going to ask him after we agree with all the pleasantries is we talk about the Browns, like you said, on a regular basis. And I saw you last week at the New Jersey's Cafe in downtown at Centennial Plaza, and that's where Kenny and I will be Thursday and Friday doing our show live. If you have the opportunity, we'd love to invite you to come down and join us. But we also wanted to ask you this. You're the Cleveland Browns. You're Andrew Berry now. Since you're the fire chief, well, let's put even a bigger helmet on your head and make you the general manager of the Cleveland Browns. You're sitting there with the number 26 pick. What do you do?
If I say names, I won't get y'all in trouble, right?
No.
Okay. What I would do is I would trade Odell Beckham. I would trade Odell Beckham to a team.
Look at this. I'm giving him a standing ovation, JT. This guy knows what he's talking about here. There we go.
I would trade Odell and move up the draft. And at that point, try to get maybe another stud wide receiver. Maybe that Marshall kid might be available from LSU, that wide receiver from LSU. I think he'll be a beast. But I think they need to get rid of Odell Beckham because I really believe in my heart, Baker ain't comfortable with him.
Amen, brother.
Not comfortable with OBJ.
You need to slide an eye on a lot of things. And
oh, yeah. I'm liking him even more, man. Come on, Akbar, you're preaching to the choir here. I try to get that through to his, thick skull on an every other day basis.
Can I go over at Maslin?
But that's what I would do. I would trade up. I would trade to OBJ and trade up and maybe get that Marshall kid from LSU.
All right. Well, here's the thing. JT and I were talking about this. right now, this is as strong of a Browns team since they've been back. Obviously, they won a playoff game. There aren't many areas of weakness or need. But I'm with you, whether it's this year or next year. I think probably that won't happen. But I don't think next year both OBJ and Landry are back because of how much money they make, right? So I think they're going to draft a wide receiver in this draft. When, I don't know. But I think it's going to be either that quick slot guy or somebody that goes over the top with some speed. So I can see that happening because I'm with you. I think Baker's a better quarterback when he's not trying to force the ball into OBJ, or as we like to call him, OBJ, because he's the only one that's ever open. You know what I mean? So,
but can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Here's the real big question for the Browns, and I know people ain't gonna want to hear this. Next year, do not sign Nick Chubb to a huge extension. Can't do it. Every time a team pays a running back a lot of money, stretch their salary cap. I hate to say it. People love Nick Chubb. You can't pay him. You got to let him go and draft another young.
Oh, man. Good thing you're running the fire department because I don't think you're running no football team. First and foremost, you're not going to be able to trade Odell Beckham Jr. He's making too much money. Nobody's going to be able to get that contract, okay? In another year, you might be able to cut ties with him, and that's fine. And Danny, you let him walk, you do whatever. Kenny's right. You're not going to be able to afford both he and Jarvis Landry. They're making way too much money. Nick Chubb is a different bird. When he was drafted in the second round, nobody expected this much success, especially myself. I understand where you're talking. I know you're coming from, and I'm thinking Todd Gurley, and I'm thinking Ezekiel Elliott, and Kenny, your term, Cadillacing.
Yeah.
Got paid big money. I don't think that's in the DNA of a Nick Chubb. And I think with the 1-2 punch that they've got right now, because what's going to happen is Kareem Hunt's going to be moving on.
Yeah, probably.
Afford both those running backs, but you've got to have one of them. And in my opinion, it's got to be Nick Chubb.
So, well, here's the thing. How much money is there to go around? You got to pay Baker. You got to pay Denzel. You got to pay Nick Chubb. You already paid Myles Garrett, right? So, of those three right there, who doesn't get paid? Now, for me, I'm going to disagree with you, Chief, okay, on the Nick Chubb thing. I liked your OBJ stuff, but the Denzel, the most important ability is availability, and he ain't always available because he's hurt. So he's got to prove to me he can play all 16 games before I'm going to give him big bucks, and that's why I think they're drafting a cornerback this year if they stay at number 26 or possibly move up using an extra third or fourth round pick to move up. And the Farley kid from Virginia Tech, if his medicals are clear and you can get Caleb Farley, that's a lockdown starting cornerback if he's healthy. And so I think they're going cornerback in this draft because I think they are going to pay Chubb and Baker, and Denzel might be the guy on the short end.
But Kenny,
what?
You said it best. If you look at Denzel Ward's injury history,
yeah,
Farley has injury history also, dude. So you really think that
I know. Now, here's the thing. Farley may be the best of the ones that are at 16, 17, 18, or 26, okay? If he's at 26 and you don't have to trade, I take the chance at 26 because if he does pan out, he's a stud. But there are other corners. Who's the Horn kid? His dad, Joe Horn, right? J.C. Horn. If he's available, maybe you go after him. Greedy Williams has a dead shoulder. His nerves trying to regenerate and come back. We don't know if he can play. Denzel plays about 12 out of 16. Now there's 17 games starting this year. So I think corner is the biggest need. If there is one need for this team, I think it's corner. And
didn't they just get a kid from the Rams
as
a corner also? Johnson?
Troy Hill. Yeah. Johnson was the safety, and Troy Hill's the nickel, cornerback. So look at you. You do know some of your stuff with the Browns anyways, Chief.
On the regular.
We talk all the time. But, here's the nice part about it is, as talented as the Browns are, they literally can take the best player available in the draft.
That's right. We're not used to that. That's why we have discussions like that. And once again, we want to thank Akbar Bennett. He is a brand new chief of the Canton Fire Department, sworn in this morning. Couldn't be happier. Ask you one final question. We'll turn you loose today. What is the first official act as fire chief going to be? Is this it?
This is it. Right here. Up to you.
You made it, Kenny.
This is it.
Cheers on that then, man. We're big time. We were the first act for the new fire chief. There we go. Cheers. Raise that bottle. Raise that glass to Akbar Bennett. Happy for you, Akbar. JT talks about you all the time. He you know what? He's like a proud dad, you know, today when he was talking about you, smiling from ear to ear, nothing but good things to say about you.
And good things happen to great people. And you're one of the best. And we really appreciate you joining us. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Any other accolades I can think of, man. Thank you for coming on the program with us.
Thanks, brother. You guys take care. Hey, go Browns.
Go Browns. There he is. And speaking of football, coming up next on the Kenny and JT show, how about this? We'll give away another 4-pack of tickets to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in our On the Clock contest. So if you signed up for it, stay tuned. Listen for your name. Back with more.